Welcome, everybody. We have once again, for the second time in her career, Donald Trump's new press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, or McEnany. I find it linguistically more natural to say McEnany, but I'm hearing it more often said McEnany, is going to be holding a press briefing. This is Donald Trump's latest press secretary. His most recent previous secretary, Stephanie Grisham, held zero press briefings during her entire time in that role. Kayleigh McEnany held one. I guess was it Friday? No, wait, not Friday. Was it the previous Friday? No, it was Friday. Yeah, this past Friday, she held her first press briefing and she promised not to lie during it and then told at least 5 lies, which I will go over with you momentarily. Expecting this to start at the top of the hour, she seems to be taking after Donald Trump, and at least on Friday, started later than scheduled. So we will see what time it ultimately starts. But what we can be almost sure of is that there will be plenty of disinformation and propaganda upcoming. Let's do a quick update of the latest coronavirus data. We are now just shy of 3.8 million official cases globally and 262, just shy of 263,000 deaths globally. The trend lines are not particularly good. 81,000 new cases yesterday, another 73,000 so far today. Yesterday, nearly 6,000 people died. Today, so far, 4,900 people died. Here in the United States, the latest official numbers are 1.25 million cases. The real number is, of course, much more, just under 74,000 deaths. One of the things that we are seeing is that the numbers are not really slowing down in terms of deaths. 2,350 deaths yesterday, the highest in a while. We are already at 1,500 today. Now, one thing that is interesting is states that are opening early, sort of like Texas, for example, they are starting to see cases increase. And what matters here is not so much the raw numbers, but the increase percentage wise. And if you go back to April 27th here, you will see that the average has been increasing. If these numbers continue, Texas will be a prime hotspot in 10 days. There are other examples as well. Active cases in Texas after leveling off in late April now have started to go back up, and that is accelerating. Deaths, of course, lag a little bit, but we are still starting to see a similar trend generated there. I expect we are going to see this in a number of different states. Donald Trump is no longer talking about deaths. He's talking about reopening. He's talking about the economy, stock market, how the cupboards were bare, and he's great at everything all the time, no matter what. Looking at the latest testing data, what we see is that we still are not testing very much per capita. It is true, and I'm glad to see that compared to, for example, early April and late March, where we often were testing, in the low six figures, we are now more regularly starting to see 250,000 tests a day, close to 300,000 tests a day on some days. We're not even close to where we need to be. As I've said before, to start having a conversation about testing, we need to get to 500,000 a day, and we need to use that to get to 1 million a day and then 2 million a day. We are still struggling to get to 300,000 a day, but we're better off than we were at the beginning of April. That's at least something. Welcome if you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. I so appreciate everybody who's here. One of the places where we are live is on Twitch at twitch.tv/David Pakman. I do want to say thanks to Mules KC, Get Trump Out 2020, and AJ Scorpia, all who have subscribed with Twitch Prime, which I absolutely love. I want to say thank you to Louis Johnson, who just made a $2 pledge on Patreon and is today's first supporter of the day. And also Robert Cahill, who has signed up at joinpacman.com and is supporter number 2 today. As you can see, we have a bar to fill there, for lack of a better term. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. Make sure you are aware that you can get your message up on the screen in the lower left if you send a super chat. I have some super chats already to talk about. Andrew Moore sent a super chat and says, "Hey, David, thanks for keeping the show interesting. Your showmanship is rivaled only by Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, or David Bowie, to quote, who was that artist? Was it Avril Lavigne who said David Bowie? And Michael Jackson. I love it. Thanks to Katie R. and Dolphin Girl for subscribing on YouTube. Waffles Giraffles says Germany opens schools, theaters, bars, anything. Yeah, I'm not exactly up to speed on what's going on in Germany, but one of the things that's important to look at is if we look at some of these countries, UK may not be doing quite so well yet, but if you look at Spain, for example, that is the type of curve that you want to see for cases. This is the type of curve you want to see for deaths. That makes sense. If you look at Italy, look at Italy's case numbers. That is what you want to see. Once again, you look at deaths. That is what you want to see, although a little bit of a spike there. If you look at France, France has done a very good job. Look at what's going on in France with the cases. And then if you look at deaths in France as well, looking very, very good. You look at Germany, which has handled this relatively well. That's what you want to see. You look at deaths in Germany, okay, lagging a little bit, but again, that's what you want to see. Then you look at the United States and it's just a disgusting mess, an absolute disgusting mess. Sad and tragic, quite frankly. Okay, Zachary Foster says, not for reopening now, but don't you think it's ridiculous for online doctors like Dina Grayson and Eugene Gu tweeting things like Texas reopened and the day of, and all of the sudden has more deaths? Yeah, you need 7 to 10 days to see the impact. But here's something I do want to mention. There's a psychological impact when you hear the state is going to reopen. People already start behaving less carefully. So you're right. The effect of reopening is not truly seen in the numbers for 7 to 10 days, maybe even 14. But a lot of people, if you are told next week we're opening, you see that as a signal that today you can start doing stuff. So if you know a week ahead of time that a state's going to be opening, we knew with Georgia earlier, we knew with Florida stuff, Texas, people immediately start behaving more in a less safe way. So you actually often do already start to see case increases by the day of the official open because people have already started going out a week before. Important to keep in mind. Unknown Prodigy says, my mommy says hi again. Give a shout out to mom. Hello, Ms. Unknown Prodigy. Great to see you here. Zesty African says, would a win for Trump help usher in an era for progressives, accelerationism? I don't believe so. I have numerous clips about accelerationism on my channel, and I welcome you checking it out. Matt Chavez says, Brian Tyler Cohen collaboration now. The people want it. I'd be glad to collaborate with him anytime. I have no contact with him, though. We've never been in touch. So if anybody wants to, if anybody can introduce us, I would be interested in doing a collaboration with Brian. He's doing very good work. Philistotle says, have you heard the flu infection fatality rate is closer to 0.04? Many people generically use 0.1, but this is actually the case fatality rate. I have seen some reports about that, indeed. Erythropathak says, add K to Kyle Kalinski's initials, and it's a disaster. Nasty Questions says, I live in North Texas. Many people at restaurants and malls are open. I'm staying inside. Michael Foster says, love your stream as always, David. Like the stream. Yes. Take Michael's advice if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to absolutely smash. I want that like button and the subscribe button. I want them pulverized. I want them aerosolized, for lack of a better term. Thank you to Jody Dylan Arense for subscribing on YouTube. I very much appreciate that. Okay, let me step away briefly from super chats, but keep them coming. Keep them coming. Couple of little notices for everybody. Important show announcements. Number one, the daily show as of today has gotten 10% longer. We've elongated the program, the daily program, by 10%. We have now pushed our broadcast hour on radio and TV to the limit. It's at a breaking point, my friends, because we expanded the show 10% a year ago. We've done another 10%. Advertisers hate me for it, but What I care about is making sure we get you as much content during that hour as possible. So 10% more show starting today, starting this week. Number two, we have a new David Pakman Show newsletter, which will be converted in the next couple of weeks into a daily print digest of the show. Okay? This is free. Oh, sorry, I froze there. Had to be rebooted. It's completely free. But I got you to look up, though, right? If you had stepped away from your phone. You can sign up for it on my website, davidpakman.com. You just sign up for the newsletter, or you can do it at davidpakman.substack.com. We are, right now, it's just our regular newsletter, but over the next 2 weeks, we are going to be extending that, filling it up, chock full of good material, and it will serve as a sort of daily digital written digest of the show. Free, take advantage of it. If you like it, I love it. And then number three, we have a clip coming out from today's program. If you're a member on my website, you can already see this with peace and love. And it's called Pakman Can't Satisfy Everyone. Okay? And over the last few weeks, I have seen that there is an increasingly loud and belligerent slice of my audience that is making demands of me. But they are demands that will never be satisfied unless I become a different person and throw away everything that I believe, right? So today I have a message to those folks, and really to everybody, with an apology to some people as well. You'll see me apologize in a segment today. And there are people who are never going to be satisfied with this program and with my perspective. And I'm addressing that today as well. So many, many exciting things for you to look at. Okay. Today, though, we are standing by for Kayleigh McEnany or McEnany, depending on your preference. I want to remind you that during her first press briefing last week, she was asked, will you pledge not to lie to us? And she had this dazed look for most of the press briefing, and she said she wasn't going to lie. Take a listen.
Thanks so much, Kayleigh. Welcome. Since it's been more than 100 days since the press secretary stood up there, I wanted to get a better sense of what your plan is. Are you planning to do these on a daily basis at this point? And also, will you pledge never to lie to us from that podium?
I will never lie to you. You have my word on that. As to the timing of the briefings, we do plan to do them.
Now, unfortunately, she immediately told 4 lies, which I've noted here. Immediately after saying she would never lie, she said that the Mueller report totally exonerated Trump. In fact, it's the opposite. Robert Mueller said that he cannot exonerate Donald Trump on obstruction of justice. Think whatever you want. What she said was a lie. Number 2, she said the Mueller report cost $40 million. The truth is that the Mueller report, strictly speaking, cost $32 million. But more importantly, it recovered more than $42 million. The Mueller report recovered more money than it cost. So it was another lie. Number 3, she said that not a single person has died due to lack of a ventilator. That's very difficult to say for sure. Anecdotally, we know of multiple people being hooked up to the same ventilator, which you're not supposed to do. We know of people being taken off of ventilators because other COVID patients needed them. So certainly that's deceptive, if not untrue. She also said that the entire Michael Flynn prosecution was bogus, which, I mean, of course, he admitted to lying, right? He lied to the FBI. That's a crime. So she lied 4 times after promising not to lie. What she should have been asked about is this. And she was not. I hope she'll be asked about it today. Take a listen.
I mean, isn't it just a matter of protecting us, our national security really being at stake? And he's sort of the last line of defense there. Or first line, right. I should say.
Absolutely. This president will always put America first. He will always protect American citizens. We will not see diseases like the coronavirus come here. We will not see terrorism come here. And
we will not see diseases like coronavirus come here. Of course, that was judged a lie by virtue of the fact that time passes and we now have 1.2 or close to 1.3 million cases in the United States. That's what she should be asked about, my friends. And hopefully she will be today. Okay. Other super chats that are coming in here. A lot going on today. We are standing by for Kayleigh McEnany at the top of the hour. Judging from how many reporters are in the room, it may be a little bit longer than that, but that's okay. More time that we can talk about other things. Alexander the Snivy says libertarians are pseudo-intellectuals that go simping for the free market and the 1%. Whoa, shots fired. Matthias Germany says Trump sees Americans as warriors. What is your opinion? I don't find the war language generally productive to dealing with the actual medical issue, so I try to stay out of that. Emilio Claroni says, would you consider buzzing your head? Not really. Not really, no. Walker Anderson says, everyone should listen to Ben Shapiro podcast from today. Proves why David's corona arguments about Trump and Republicans are disingenuous. All right, yeah, I mean, do what you want. Bill Kittleman says, David, I cannot afford to be a member. I am permanently disabled and have no job. I love your show. Keep on doing a great job. I appreciate your support. I'm sorry to hear that, Bill. Maybe somebody will have a gift membership for Bill. Let me thank just a couple of other people. Christopher Olin is new member number 3 today on my website. And Nicholas Corrado is new member number 4. Thank you so much. I'm going to mention this once and not again. And if this resonates with you, then fantastic. This is a program that's mostly funded by our viewers. We have seen YouTube revenue drop 35% because of the invisible scourge. We have seen a couple of advertisers postpone or bail on ad campaigns. So we're increasingly dependent on people who say, hey, I'm going to just grab a membership on your website or make a pledge on Patreon. So I don't want anyone's last dollar. We saw 722 people cancel memberships in March and April. And I get why. I get it. We're all in this together. But we're trying to do as much as we can, including expanding our weekly output of content. If a couple bucks a month works for you, grab a membership. Grab a membership at joinpacman.com. The coupon code 2020now drops the price to $2 a month. You can pay for a year at once, and then it's only $1.80. Every single person who does this, not only will you have my undying gratitude, but I will also thank you live on stream. It's quick, it's easy. You can use PayPal, you can use any credit or debit card. If you prefer, you can also use Patreon, and we'll count it to our goal of 25. You can go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. It all counts. Everything counts. And we have been, fortunately, we're not, we're sort of treading water. We're underwater, but only a little bit. 722 people canceled, but many hundreds have subscribed, thanks to fine folks like you. And that's a good thing. And we are hoping to come out of this bigger and better than ever. And folks like you are a big part of that. Okay, let's see a few other. Over on Twitch, I want to thank Bellwolf and Henry Engvall for subscribing with Prime. Always a beautiful thing. Okay. Michael Kearns has just donated $20 towards Bill's membership. That's beautiful. So listen, Bill, get in touch via my website, Bill Kittleman. I will set you up with a membership thanks to Michael Kearns. That's a beautiful thing. I love it, Michael. Really appreciate it. Get in touch, Bill. You've got yourself a free membership. Community. What a beautiful thing. This isn't happening over on, Bill Mitchell's Twitter page. I can assure you. Mark Levin is not doing what we're doing here, community-wise, from the standpoint of community. So I love it. Very much appreciate it. Okay, other super chats that are coming in. Unknown Prodigy says, someone should ask, has Trump ever lied? Catch 22. Pear Tiran says, can anyone put some justice to the mouth of Sauron? Sorry, Trump, accept popularity and media impact. Pear, I love you. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know if you're translating from Swedish via Google Translate, but I am struggling to know what you're saying. But I love your long-term support. Chris K says, so how long does her nose need to grow before we stop watching? Yeah, I expect a lot of dishonesty today for sure. A lot of dishonesty, no doubt about it. Walker Anderson says, David ignores Sweden's successful strategy and the plurality of Democrat governors, praising the federal government's approach. He is a disingenuous actor. Listen, I have no ideological compunction when it comes to saying a particular strategy for dealing with the virus is good or bad. We don't know about the Sweden situation long term. What we know in the short term is that their death rate is higher than many other countries. Sweden's death rate, because of their strategy, is higher. They are not actually near herd immunity. You need to get, we believe, between 60 and 70% infection to get to herd immunity. The possibility is that in the long term, over the 3 waves that are expected, maybe Sweden will be better off. In the short term, Sweden is seeing a higher death rate. Okay. Jody Dillon Arense says, hey, David, big fan from South Africa. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Dragon Horizon says, last dollar. I know you're kidding. I know you're kidding. Townsend Coke says, David, did you know Jesse Lee Peterson once interviewed Michelle Alexander of New Jim Crow fame? Hilarious and amazing. You should check it out. That sounds compelling, and I'm going to look at that later. Michael Kearns buying a membership for Bill Kittleman. I love it. Danny Thompson says, applause for the print version. I have a hard time watching and listening to the hour-long show, but I am a voracious reader, like a book a day, and now feel great. I will be better informed of all things Pac-Man soon. Yes, absolutely, Danny. Thank you very much. Okay. Let me say thank you to Peppa Z1 for subscribing with Twitch Prime and M. Sanjelb for subscribing with Prime. Chris Davidson says, I'll buy Bill Hittleman a year membership. What's the best way to do that? Chris, you know what? Somebody already did it. I appreciate the generosity, but somebody did it already. So Bill's got himself a membership upcoming. Sherry Kopzinski has subscribed on YouTube. Pear says, how can I pay for Bill for a web membership? The generosity is inspiring. We've got Bill taken care of, thanks to Michael Kearns. Ryan Macon says, love watching from the UK. Sad to see what is happening both here and there. Agreed. Zachary Foster says, should hospitalizations be the primary factor for severity of growth? Scott Gottlieb says we are getting better, but very slowly. Yeah, that's not, let me see if I can pull up the Massachusetts data because I'm familiar with it. It's not crazy to be looking at hospitalizations. Massachusetts has a nice dashboard that they update pretty regularly. This is from yesterday. And one of the things that it contains is, let's see, testing, case growth, county by county, hospitalizations. And what I love is at the bottom here, it's net change in hospitalizations. And so you've got the blue line is the number hospitalized. Obviously, for that to go down, in the bottom, you would see like a net decrease, 92 or 43 or whatever the case may be. That is a good metric to look at. It doesn't tell you everything, but it is certainly an important metric to consider. Samuel Lopez says, buenas tardes, David. Buenas tardes. Great to hear from you. Matthias Germany says, can you describe what scourge or scorch means? Okay, so let me pull up the definition. So what's funny about the word scourge or scourge is that Trump mispronounces it regularly. Trump has, for whatever reason, I don't believe it's a valid pronunciation. Yeah, so if you look at the phonetic pronunciation, we can even play it.
Scourge.
There you go. It's pronounced scourge, and it means a whip used as an instrument of punishment, or what we mean by that is that the coronavirus is punishing us, right? It is a punishment. That's what scourge essentially means. Trump pronounces it scourge, and nobody seems to have corrected him, or if they have, he doesn't care. So that's that. Matty Ice PVD says, David, perhaps we could set up a community fund to help our less privileged viewers get memberships. P.S. Thanks for streaming today. Cheers. Yeah, you know, I've been trying to think of how to do this. And for a while, people would email me and say, I want a free website membership. And I was trying to think of a way with a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet, where people could go and look at it and pick somebody and buy a membership for them. I've not figured out the logistics of it yet, to be perfectly frank, but I would love to do something like that. I think there are a lot of members, probably hundreds of current members, who would buy a membership for somebody else. And I would love to figure out a way to do it that also isn't subject to some kind of vandalism. Having a Google spreadsheet where people can add their name and then somebody else can kind of like check off and say, hey, I got a membership for this person. It's ripe for abuse and trolling. So I'd love to do it. I just don't know exactly the right way at this point in time. Okay, I've got a few other people to thank on my website. Really, really great people. Let me make sure I pronounce these names as perfectly as possible. Michael Fitzherbert. I've not heard that last name before. Fitzherbert is new member number 5 on my website, joinpacman.com. Walter Washington is new member number 6 today at joinpacman.com. Ryan Holding is new member number 7 at joinpacman.com. Lori Garand, or Garand, is new member number 8 today. Thanks, Lori. Adam Airy, or Adam Airy, is new member number 9 today. Tyler Grimes has subscribed and is new member number 10. Jessica Piercy, you are new member number 11. George Shea is new member number 12. And Lucas Esser. Lucas Esser is lucky 13. Thanks, Lucas. Very much appreciate your support. And a lot of these great people are taking advantage of that coupon code 2020 now, which chops the price of a membership to just $2 a month. Let me remember, of course, to thank our followers over on Twitch. People like Ramekin Beast. I love Ramekins myself, who is a Twitch Prime subscriber. Dead Zeds, Hell's Kitchen, Graham Bam, and Yas Smiles. Yas Smiles. Love it. Absolutely love it. Other questions coming in. Shane Beam. Whoa, that scrolled past me. Shane Beam says, just adding towards the Bill membership fund. I love it. Bill, you are very well positioned for a membership at this point. Waffles Giraffles says, positive COVID test from December in France. What are your thoughts? You know, I was in France in December, and both my girlfriend and I believe it's plausible that we had the virus. And seeing that there were cases in France in December seems to make it at least more plausible. I do plan on getting an antibody test soon. I'm just waiting because the one you can get easily is the Quest Pharmaceuticals, Quest Labs one. There's like 10 labs within a few miles of where I live. And I was going to do it today, but I want to wait to see. There's this thing where the labs have to self-certify that the tests are accurate. You know, that's like saying businesses will regulate themselves. We know it's BS. So I'm waiting a little bit to see if, you know, we get an efficacy signal, for lack of a better term. I want to make sure that if I go and pay $100 for one of these tests, that it's actually accurate. So maybe next week. Okay. Quirky Quip says, I may have misheard, but if the DNC were to remove Biden, it's possible to put Hillary Obama on the ticket. Shake up or a nightmare? Give me your ideas. Listen, unless Joe Biden dies or is in a coma, he's the nominee. That's unless we find out he, shot someone on Fifth Avenue or something like that. So I don't even know that it's worth looking at that stuff. Sherry Kopzinski says, love your show so much. Thank you, Sherry. Townsend Koch says, Federico Finkelstein is very interesting. Thanks. Yes, I cited Federico yesterday on the show. He is a fellow Argentinian. Hilariously, his dad and my dad were friends decades ago in Argentina. And he is an expert on populism and totalitarianism and the differences between left and right-wing populism. He teaches at the New School in New York City. Look him up. Look him up. Excellent guy. Fortnite says, hi, David. I thank God for people like you online. I thought something was wrong with how I was raised because of how Trump and so many of his followers seemingly have the support of so many influential people. Thank you for the message and the very generous support. I really appreciate that. Azim Abu Khalil, great to see you. Azim's been around the show for a while. Azim says, Trump's conduct during the crisis and by extension his presidency surely should be enough to convince Never Biden people of the stark discrepancies between Joe and Donald, right? Common sense says yes. Reddit and Twitter say maybe not. So, we will see how it works out in November. Zesty African says, are there any African or Latin American revolutionaries in the last 100 years that you appreciate or even love? Appreciate, or I'd have to think about that a little bit. Appreciate, sure. Love. I don't really love any politicians. I just don't, they're just people. These leaders are just people. So love is, that's a term I reserve more for people I know personally. Wake Up Style has subscribed on YouTube. Madeline Welsh sends a super chat. Danny Thompson says, here's a challenge for those of us able to afford it. I am a YouTube member already. I just added a second membership on David's site, and I'm not canceling YouTube. Anyone else want to accept this challenge? Danny, I love what you're doing. Danny has been a very generous supporter of the show, and I really appreciate the support, Danny. Bill Kittleman says thank you very much to the person that donated. Yes, Bill Kittleman asked for a membership, and 4 people offered to buy one for Bill, and 1 person already did. So make sure you email me, Bill, and I will get that set up for you. In the meantime, let me say thank you to Aluinda Christ, oh boy, who has subscribed with Twitch Prime, and Hallow Raven, who has subscribed with Prime. Couple of other people to thank. Dorian Brown has subscribed on my website and is new member number 14. Keith Collins has subscribed, has made a Patreon pledge, and we're going to count it. Danny Thompson has, as we just heard, gotten a second membership on my website. That's number 16. And I also want to say thanks to Francisco Javier Jimenez Paredes. Wow, that's a mouthful. Who is new member number 17. I would guess that Paco, as we often call people named Francisco, I would guess that Francisco is Catholic, going by the 4 names. But that is just a guess, my friends, just a guess. And if it turns out Francisco is Jewish, then I love it. I love it no matter what. Okay. Cheryl Roberts says, thank you for your great videos. Many blessings. Millennial Cooking Corner says, choose a trusted person to be membership mediator. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, that could work. Ken H says, under overtime to the first live from McEnany. Is it 5 minutes? All right, let me think about that. She's going to come out and read a bunch of stuff first before taking questions. Will she lie during that part, or will it take until she has to answer questions? I think that she will lie within 3 minutes. I think she will lie within 3 minutes. Let's actually game it out. When she comes out, when she starts speaking, I will run a stopwatch on my phone, and we will see if she tells a lie within the first 3 minutes or if it takes longer than 3 minutes. We will see. Okay. Alicia Does Adulting says, could people buy a free membership from your website and others buy a gifting membership? Then the free ones get fulfilled in order like Twitch. Yes, but we would need to add that functionality to the website. That's not functionality that we currently have. I need to talk to my web developer about it. Quirky Quips says, Biden, due to sexual allegations, his possible cognitive impairment, I guess I misheard. Okay. Barry Lee says, David, do you think Trump will fight the results in November if he loses in court? I don't know that I know what... I think Trump will claim it was rigged if he loses by a small margin, but I think ultimately he will leave. It won't be what we call peacefully, but he will leave, is my belief. Can I Get a Beer has subscribed on YouTube. Robert Smith says, David, I love your commentary. I was the one who attempted to correct your pronunciation of Kayleigh McEnany, LOL, but it was really just in jest. Oh, okay. I don't even know that I saw that, Robert. I mean, I've heard it pronounced McEnany and McEnany, and that's the story. Gail Burnett has subscribed on YouTube. Nicholas Corrado and Jan Schutz send super chats. Jan says, David, I'm concerned that there will be a standoff when it comes time for Trump to leave office, Ruby Ridge or Waco, Texas style ending. Yuck. No, I don't think so. I think Trump will certainly, I'm more worried his supporters will become violent if they believe it was rigged. But I think Trump ultimately will leave office. I believe that he will. Let me say thank you to Ryan Wildgrube, who is new member number 18 on my website today. We've been a little short of the goal in some recent streams, but we're getting close. We're actually getting close today. And I believe that with the right effort, we will get there. We will get there. If you're just joining, this second press briefing for Donald Trump's new press secretary was scheduled to start at the top of the hour 15 minutes ago. It has not yet started. We are expecting it to start anytime, although the Press briefing room is still a little bit empty, So hopefully it starts soon. We see Fox News reporter John Roberts here, I guess about to deliver some kind of live pre-briefing message to the Fox News audience, but otherwise relatively quiet in the press briefing room so far. Let's see here. Brad Partington sends a super chat. Robert Mifflin says, left online gets tricked by populists, Gabbard, etc. I have a video that came out yesterday. I can tell you the exact top subject or title of it. The title is, hold on a second. The title is, oh boy, where is it? Crap, I can't find it. It's something like social democracy is being destroyed by populism, and I talk about exactly that issue. Michael Henkley says you should go over the benefits of membership. Yes, the two primary membership benefits on my website are every day at 3 p.m., roughly, you get a full hour commercial-free episode. All of that day's content. You get it all, my friends. And an extra 15 to 20-minute bonus show where I'm joined by our producer, Patrick Ford, currently self-isolating at his apartment. And you get all of that at roughly 3 p.m. Eastern time. Your alternative is not to get the bonus show, which I think is one of the best elements that we produce, and to wait around for short clips to publish or late at night for a with commercials episode to publish. And those are benefits that people enjoy very, very strongly. Those are the main things. We also, every once in a while, will do members-only town halls, the monthly members-only newsletter, and a bunch of other very, very exciting stuff. So the benefits are, we've been looking at them very powerfully, I think is what I would say. Mr. Lieutenant Pink, great to see you. Mr. Lieutenant Pink has been around for a while. Thank you. Do you know any Welsh speakers from Argentina? No. I'm part Welsh and have always been fascinated by Patagonia. Interesting. No, I don't know any Welsh folks in Argentina. This reminds me, by the way, because you said Welsh, this made me think of British. I am currently reading the book Machines Like Us by the great British writer Ian McEwan. And it's an alternative history where it's 1982. Argentina won the Falklands War and the UK is trying to win it back. And Alan Turing, the great code breaker of the World War II era, survived and worked on artificial intelligence. And humanoid robots are something people can buy and own. Excellent book. Excellent book. I'm halfway through. If you enjoy reading, hello, check this book out. Ian McEwan, Machines Like Us. It will probably make it onto my book recommendation segment at some point in time. Okay. Paratiran says, a bit confused. I think I am a web member, but not a YouTube member. What is a YouTube member? So YouTube membership is totally different. If you become a YouTube member, you get a little icon. Like, for example, a user named None Seriously has a yellow icon because they've been a member for 7 months. User Lee Moronic has a red one because they've been a member for 5 months. Your messages are highlighted in chat, and it's YouTube only, separate from website. So from what it looks like, Pear, you are a website member and not a YouTube member. Jared Johnson coming in from nowhere with a 500 Mexican peso super chat says, David, I am on unemployment for the first time in my life, and I just got my first check. I was working, honestly, I appreciate, I don't know that you should be sending me 500 Mexican pesos. I was working 40 hours a week for a Fortune 500 company, yet my current unemployment check gives me about $2,000 a month more than when I had actually been working. Oh my God, that sounds complex. Okay, I appreciate you letting me know, Jared. And are you in Mexico? You're getting Mexican unemployment? I don't even understand. Or do you just transact on the internet in Mexican currency? I don't know. Sam Harvey has signed up on YouTube. Johnny Minogue says, what Western Mass food or drink establishment do you miss the most? Mine is Haymarket. Yeah, so people may or may not know this, but the David Pakman Show started where I went to high school in Northampton, Massachusetts. We're no longer based there, but I get back there frequently. I was actually just there. My family lives in that area generally. And I do miss Haymarket. I miss the absurd humidity of Haymarket. This is a cafe where if you walk in wearing glasses, they immediately get completely fogged up. I miss the bathroom keys being left inside the bathroom and causing a huge line to congregate as people worry that someone inside is doing something really, really bad, only to find out that they just left the key inside. I really do miss Haymarket. And I look forward to getting back there. When I was there over the weekend, I did pick up Aminu's Cafe, one of my favorite Northampton restaurants, was back open for takeout. I got a lentil soup. I got the chicken kebab on baguette. I mean, it was a delightful experience. It's takeout only. What else do I miss in Western Mass? I miss going to the Roost or going to Northampton Coffee and just sitting there with my laptop and, answering emails and doing work or just reading a book. Kisara in East Hampton, I believe the best sushi in the area. Picked up food there a couple months ago, and Lewis and Mitch, the owners, were just doing takeout already. Maybe it was like 6 weeks ago or something like that. I want to get back to Kisara. There's so many places. The last place I went out to eat in Western Mass was in February, I believe. I went up to Greenfield to Hope and Olive, which is also a great restaurant. Okay. Brad Partington says, oh, actually, no, hold on. I don't want to fall behind on thanking people. Thank you to Esequam Videri for the Twitch subscription. Over on my website, I want to say thank you to Whitney Cadwell, who is new member number 19, as well as Annie Liebert, who is new member number actually, you know what? Whitney canceled. How embarrassing. Whitney didn't subscribe. Whitney canceled her membership. Okay, that's okay. So number 19 is Annie Liebert. There we go. And then number 20 is Melanie Anderson. Okay, now we are now at 20, and I can say that for sure. Oh boy! All right, if you're just joining us, we are close to a half hour late with today's press briefing. Apparently, Kayleigh McEnany taking after Donald Trump, and she also will be starting the press briefings late. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Both are. It's really important. It's free. And it helps us out dramatically. Music 55 says, what does Music 55 say? Do you see the homeless numbers go up? Can Trump declare to the courts can't take homes from renters? Most states right now have no eviction and no foreclosure policies, I guess we would call them, in place. But of course, when those end, people are going to be behind on rent and mortgages, and it could get ugly. So we'll have to see how that goes. Alvaro S. says, Boca or River? I don't really follow Argentinian soccer. I follow the national team in the World Cup. I follow Copa America, but I don't take a position. And I think, hanging out with my family is better as a result, because that can be very controversial. Drew Reedy says, did you see OAN reporter Rian Channel? Oh, I think it's Chanel Rion or something like that. Come out of the blue door. Was that odd? I didn't see it. If anybody knows how long ago it was, we could go back to it. Must have been a while ago. I'm looking here. Yeah, I'm not finding myself easily finding it here. But if somebody, oh wait, is this it? Oh, I think I did find it. Oh, yep, that is her. Why is she even there again? It's just her presence is absolutely toxic. Okay, so we found it. Now I saw it. Thanks for calling my attention to it. Townsend Koch says, I agree with the gist of your populism segment, but social democracy doesn't promote things like workers on corporate boards and Mondragon-type co-ops. I don't know that I agree with you. Let me give that a little more thought. Joseph Dinzy says, thoughts on the Falklands War? Is it still controversial in Argentina? Also, what's your favorite Italian-Argentine food? Pizza. The pizza in Argentina is fantastic. Here's the reality. I'm from Argentina. I don't have any emotional attachment to the Falklands War. And I don't know enough about it to intelligently comment about it. That's it. I do find, when you go to a soccer match and there's signs that say the Falklands Islands are Argentinian, I find that a little wacky. But I'm not really the right person to be, explaining that war to anybody. Jared Johnson says, I work online. I greatly enjoy your work. I brought this up because Republicans are upset about people earning more while on unemployment. Maybe they should be upset about people working slave wages for CEOs who rake in millions. Right. That's the counter to people could make more on supplemented unemployment during the virus than they normally do, which is why are people earning that little at corporations where the CEOs have absolutely absurd compensation packages? Very good point. Mitchell House says, did you get that phone line issue fixed? I believe we did. We will see tomorrow. We will see tomorrow. Sam Harvey says, where'd that go? Sam Harvey says, just curious, are you concerned about Biden's cognitive state? Love the show. Thanks for the awesome content. There's no question that Joe Biden cognitively has slowed down from where he was 10 years ago. I mean, all you have to do is look at the 2012 debate against Paul Ryan. There's no doubt about it. I've spoken to 3 different neuroscience and mental health experts. None believes that Joe Biden has dementia. So I go by what experts say. I don't come up with this stuff on my own because it's not my area of expertise. And that's what they are telling me. Let me say thank you to Andrew Moore, who is new member number 21 today. Cheryl Roberts is new member number 22. And Tom Wilson is new member number 23. We may actually get to our goal of 25 today. We're very, very close. I think partially thanks to Kayleigh McEnany running very late, now a full half hour late. Matthias Germany asks, why is the press room so small? Is it a historic room? I don't know the answer, but it is, when you see it from the other side, from, I guess, what would be this camera up here, or maybe this one, it's much smaller than people imagine, for sure. Erythropathak says Trump's punctuality and his German Trump ancestry. Okay. Barry Lee says, David, do you have a coffee mug with your mugshot printed on it? Pun intended, because I would buy one. No, we do not. Christy J says, do you think using Kayleigh McEnany to spread the Trump administration's lies helps Trump politically or hurts him or neither? I find her almost more irritating than Trump, almost. I have that same feeling where I almost find her more irritating than Trump, but then I sort of don't, because really Trump is the problem. She exists as press secretary because of Trump. In a normal world, someone like Kayleigh McEnany or Grisham would never be press secretaries. Maybe Sean Spicer would. He did run communications for the RNC, but look at how long he lasted, right? Ryan Wildgrube says, just a graduated nurse, amazed how much better British Columbia is doing than other parts of Canada and developed world. Any ideas as to why? No, I don't know enough about the specifics of what's going on within Canada to be able to say. Zendicrust says, puffy hair, beard, gray t-shirt, quarantine chic. This is actually one of my Cuts shirts, one of our sponsors. They're actually pretty good. I like them. Per Tiren says, I don't even know that my hair really is puffy. It actually hasn't been puffy for a while. I mean, we could do that. We can make it happen if people want. By the way, how crazy. I haven't done this for a couple of weeks. I didn't even realize how much it had grown. That is absolutely nuts. That is absolutely crazy. But we'll keep it going for now. The thing is, I'd have to lower my chair if it's going to stay this way. Oh my God, I've got like a horn now. There we go. All right, that's good for now. Okay, Per Tiran says, did Jared's company kicked out residents or was it stopped? Well, yeah, he's a slumlord. I don't know what's going on right now, but certainly they have evicted many, many people. Remember, we are going to start a timer when Kayleigh comes out and see whether she lies before or after the 3-minute mark. I believe she will lie after the 3-minute mark, but I'm also trying to be proven wrong. I'll start a timer as soon as she comes out, and we will see when she says her first words how long it takes to lie. Charlie says, David, if you could teleport to the briefing room, what question would you ask Kayleigh McEnany? I would ask her about this video where she said Trump will never allow the coronavirus to come to the United States. I would ask her what she meant by that and if she's ready to apologize. Sabrina Zafar. Hey, Sabrina. Would you please have Kyle Kulinski on to discuss some of your political differences in a non-combative manner? I don't even know what the differences are because I don't watch any shows, but my instinct is that that type of thing at this point may be more divisive than anything else. Ken H says, did you hear Trump arguing with a nurse about PPE? I did, and it was awkward. Sabrina's back, and she says, can we have Cobb Fefe tweet put on a TDPS mug? Maybe. I used to love Cobb Fefe. I actually like Hefsefahide better now. It has just it's less halting. It's easier to say it. All right, here she is. We'll switch over to the White House feed, and we will start a timer and see whether she lies before or after we reach the 3-minute mark. The White House feed is a little bit behind, but I prefer it. It's my favorite feed. We are standing by here. Don't worry, you'll be 20 seconds delayed from the real world, but we are the stakes are low enough that I prefer the actual White House feed rather than this other one. Geez, maybe it's more than 20 seconds behind. But we should be very, very close. There it is. All right, I will start the stopwatch as soon as she speaks. And we're off.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to direct your attention to a very encouraging graph regarding test results. It'll be over my shoulder and hopefully on the screen for those of you watching on television. As this chart shows, the United States has to date completed 7.5 million coronavirus tests. It's an extraordinary number. And as you can see, the United States...
Irrelevant. What matters is per capita. Trump was walking around with this on a piece of paper yesterday in Arizona. 12 seconds until they deceived. Amazing.
Including the work of the Trump administration. For example, the FDA has issued over 70 emergency use authorizations to expand testing capacity. To accelerate the development of therapeutics and vaccines, there are nearly 80 clinical trials ongoing with an additional 30 clinical trials expected.
Wow.
This graph is also a testament to the American people, who have been, and it's no exaggeration, American warriors, as they've followed social distancing guidelines and taken steps to ensure that the health and safety of our vulnerable populations is protected. Finally, I would like to note that this graph indicates that the U.S. has conducted double the number of tests conducted in...
Irrelevant. We are 41st in the world per capita. It's actually getting it's one of these things where they repeat it enough, people start to believe it. It is irrelevant. We have 331 million people. Cringing.
Incredible ingenuity and work ethic. As you're well aware, President Trump has consistently sided with the experts and has always prioritized the health and safety of the American people. This includes issuing guidance that meant hardworking Americans had to stay home, social distance, and slow the spread of the virus.
This is weaponized.
The hard work of Americans saved many lives. And
remember, it was states who did stay-at-home orders. States, not Trump.
The country stayed home and businesses temporarily shut their doors. President Trump ensured American employees and employers would receive the help that they needed. The Paycheck Protection Program provided forgivable loans to small business owners who kept their employees on payroll. To date, 2.3 million small business loans have been processed, with the average loan being $76,000. In other words, meaning that the small businesses that needed the help the most...
Notice that is 2.3 million loans a lot or not a lot? How many businesses are there? How many people applied? How many were not able to get any money because huge corporations did? The number of loans is essentially meaningless to most people. It's like imagining $1 trillion. For most folks, it's not really a tangible thing that we can analyze.
Operators in the military who started Flags of Valor in 2015. It's a veteran-owned, veteran-run manufacturing company located not too far from here in Virginia. Flags of Valor builds wooden flags, among other products. They've employed over their years 65 veterans and have raised over $1 million for veteran charities. Flags of Valor is also proud to have 97,000 hours of American manufacturing labor under their belt.
Dear God.
It's a lot of hours. At the start of this crisis, Joe had to furlough 4 of his employees.
Again, does that number mean anything to anybody?
Pay cut. His employees were, of course, disappointed, but they were, quote, in his words, all in the fight against the coronavirus. Everything changed for Joe and his furloughed employees when he applied for the PPP loan. Just this week, he was approved for that PPP loan that enabled Flags of Valor to rehire its furloughed employees and to boost paychecks back to pre-coronavirus levels. PPP was a huge lifeline for us, Joe told me. He called it a lifesaver. This is a perfect example.
She's genuinely terrible at this, like really, really bad.
We'll continue to fight for small businesses and American heroes like Joe. Joe is here with me today, and I'd like to invite him to
Oh
come
my
up.
God, propaganda. Look at this. Can you imagine? Look at this degree of propaganda. 2,350 people died
Joe,
yesterday.
thank you
They're
so much for
pretending
your
we won.
service. Thank you for all the great work you've done for our veterans and being a veteran yourself. I wanted to see if you'd take to the podium for a minute or two and share your message of hope with the American people.
Can you imagine?
I'd love to. Thank you, Kayleigh, and thank you, President Trump, for allowing me to be here today. I've got a couple props. This is examples of one of our products that we make, and here's another one. This one
Is
my
this a
son,
commercial?
Gabriel, made. And when you talk about hope and what's going on,
Also, guys, I don't want to be. If this is elitist, then by all means attack me. But a wooden flag, it feels very kitsch. Isn't even the right word. Wooden flag. I mean, okay, great. I love that this guy has a business, but I mean, this is who you pick.
the Paycheck Protection Program, the two biggest fixed costs for most businesses is people and property. And that's exactly what the PPP focused on. So for us, it was a lifesaver. It was an absolute game changer. We went from trying to figure out how we were going to limit our cash burn every single day to stay alive as long as we could with as
wooden
many
flag.
people as we
Okay.
could to finally bring them back. And when you have to furlough someone, I'm telling you, it is one of the worst things you can do because you're talking about family. These are people, these are their wives, their husbands, their children. They're a part of your ethos. And so what we've experienced has been challenging, sure, but when there hasn't been all the revenue, there's been people helping other people. And the way we approached it was, how can we be better? How can we exit COVID-19 a better version of ourselves? How can we innovate? And so we saw people like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the SBA step in. We saw our partners at Under Armour step in. We saw innovation. You see companies making respirator masks. You see all kinds of stuff going on. And we created the Flag Build Kit because families were at home with their kids. They didn't know what to do with their children. And we believe this is our nation's family crest. So what better thing than allow families to build American flags together and talk about that and what it means. And then we started a twice-a-day daily pledge at 9 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast and again at 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Every day we've got thousands of kids and their families joining us to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh my
It's phenomenal.
God.
And all that's happening by people coming together, by
This is
people thinking
disgusting.
and innovating. And I can't tell you enough how grateful we are to the U.S. government, the bipartisanship that took place to pass the Paycheck Protection
It's taking
Program.
everything I have not to end this stream right now and to just go punch myself in the face.
And they built the parachute on the way down. And when you think about it, you want to talk about the Lakers got it or somebody else got it. Think about the millions of businesses that are being benefited by this. And it's, I think, 47% of U.S.
Oh, so
private.
he's running interference and saying it's okay that huge corporations took money. Okay.
And so all the big businesses we love, they started as small businesses. And I hope to be a big business someday, but for now, I'm happy to be alive.
Gonna need
I'm
more
thankful
product
for
than
your
just a wooden
support,
flag, I think,
And
to
thank
get
you,
that
Kayleigh, for letting me be here. So join us at flagsofvalor.com. Thank you.
Sponsored. Thank
Joe,
you.
if you want to take a seat with the reporters, you can ask me some questions. But,
I'm happy right now.
Oh my God.
Joe, it's veterans like you that make our country great. It's small business
Holy
owners like
shit.
you that are going to bring this country back, and employees like the one we heard from last week, Michael Hoyp, the employee of Biddy and Bo's Coffee, that keep this country going. So thank you so much for the example you've set, and to the hardworking business owners across the country, and to the employees across this country who are working during this time. So
This
thank
is
you, Joe.
disgusting.
Thank you for your service. As I said, PPP has changed lives across this country, and as President Trump has said, the American people are warriors, and we will fight together to defeat the invisible enemy. And with that, I'll take questions.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Kayleigh. Just to get back to this decision that was supposedly coming yesterday, whose idea was it initially to wind down the White House Coronavirus Task Force?
Look, I would just refer you back to the president's comments. He's been asked this like 4 times today, I believe. He decided that coronavirus task force is here to stay. They've
Yeah.
done great work.
He changed his mind after saying yesterday it was time to end it because of the backlash.
Country through this. There were supposed to be 2.2 million deaths, and we're at a point where we're far lower than that, and it's thanks to the great work of the task force and to the leadership of President Trump.
The death toll estimate has just doubled, but we're still under 2 million, so there you go.
It's 4 times today. John?
I just have a question about masks. I know there was some back and forth over the president wearing a mask
She
yesterday.
has a mask page prepared.
the White House's view. What is the White House's message to the American people? Does the White House, does the president believe that people should be wearing masks as they try to get back to some semblance of their normal life?
Well, as we've put out, it's recommended, but that's the choice of the individual as to whether they wear a mask or not. The president yesterday, the CEO of Honeywell, said that there was no need, and so he followed that advice and that guidance. And I would just note on the note of masks, 70 million N95 masks.
Her mask page. The questions about Trump wearing a mask, she's just going to say how many masks they've ordered. Can you imagine?
Our healthcare workers. So the fact that in a few weeks we've distributed nearly 3 times what is used in a year is extraordinary, and that's not to mention the 120 million surgical masks. And
she may be evil. She may genuinely be evil.
I'm sure you've seen in a number of polls, there's a huge difference between Democrats and Republicans over whether or not they think it's necessary to wear a mask in public. Do you have any sense as to why that would be?
No sense as to why that would be. That's the choice of the American public. It's the choice of the individual as to whether to wear a mask or not. But again, I'd praise the extraordinary work of this administration in distributing those masks and ensuring
Right.
healthcare providers.
Even though Republicans aren't wearing them, it's Trump to be praised for sending them out.
Well, as was the team, that they didn't need to wear masks. The reason he was told that was because the people who would be interacting with him had all been tested and had been shown to be negative before that took place. I guess, so the president had those circumstances. Obviously, he's the president. But why shouldn't all Americans who go back to work be able to get a test before they do to feel comfortable in their own work environment?
We've tested 7 million people more than anybody else.
Yeah,
Here we
well,
go.
let's dismiss a myth about test right now.
Yep,
If
she's going to her testing page.
single American in this country at this moment, we have to retest them an hour later and then an hour later after that, because at any moment you could theoretically contract this virus. So the notion that everyone needs to be tested is just simply nonsensical. The people who
Again,
need
nobody's saying everyone, but at least people going back to work. At least people going back to work.
We need to surge nursing homes with the testing, meat processing facilities. That's where the testing is needed. We have to be strategic with our testing, and we have done that so far. And again, if we want to talk about testing and the volume of testing, the fact that in South Korea, we always hear about South Korea and their tests. There are 11 tests per 1,000 here in the United States. That's 17 tests per 1,000. Our hotspots per capita are
Yep, that's 41st in the world where we are. 41st in the world.
Best of other countries around the world. We're at a very strong place in this country with testing, but rest assured we'll deploy it strategically, because that's what the American public expects of us.
So just to follow up, to be clear, should people accept the risk that they could become ill if they go back to work?
Look, each and every state has put into place, this is a governor-led effort, first of all. Let me emphasize that. The president
Wait a second. So Trump is to be praised for all of his work, but anything not working well is the fault of government. Okay, I gotcha, Kayleigh. Okay, very good.
in order
very
to
good.
safely reopen.
Yep.
I was sitting in the meeting when Admiral Joie pulled out the list for several states and said, here's the testing you requested to open safely. Here's the testing I'm giving you to meet that need. It's pretty extraordinary, this wide-scale effort by the Trump administration to ensure states have what they need. So as states reopen, they'll do so safely, and they'll do so with the supplies of the Trump
What
administration.
does it say that so many of those states?
Francesca?
What does it say that so many of those governors, those states, aren't following the guidelines that the president dictated from this podium?
We encourage every single governor to follow the guidelines that we've put forward to a phased reopening approach. We have this beautiful concept called federalism, which means that the states lead on this, and that's what we're doing. It's
There's a
governor-led
ventriloquism
decision,
act going on
we
right
encourage
now.
everyone to follow the expert written guidelines that we've put forward. Francesca?
I do have a question about reopening, but first, some of the areas that have been hardest hit by coronavirus have been urban areas. What is the White House doing, or is there any targeted effort to help stop the spread in minority communities?
Yeah, it's a very important question because we know that some of our underserved communities are hit most by the coronavirus. Absolutely, we've done quite a bit, invested, first of all, $1.4 billion into our nation's 13,000 community centers. That ensures that 28 million people living in medically underserved areas receive funding. Also, that announcement I had for you last week about hospital funding, $2 billion of that
double it.
was geared towards specifically ensuring that men and women in underserved communities and those hospitals got that money. And I would also note just that the president has directed Secretary Ben Carson to focus the White House opportunity Opportunity and Revitalization Council on underserved communities. So very important. This is a community that's been very hard hit, and rest assured we are laser focused on making sure that these communities are assisted.
Can I ask about reopening as well? Sure. Okay, so the task force has put out phased guidelines for states to reopen and individual guidelines, but it hasn't said very much about businesses specifically. Does it plan to put out any detailed guidelines for businesses like retailers and restaurants to reopen?
Governors.
Well, in the phased approach, there are some recommendations for how, for instance, restaurants should reopen, and the distancing that's required. And as you go through the phases, that distancing is shrunk, and there are other mechanisms that are outlined for restaurants and movie theaters and sporting venues. So I would argue that our phased approach does take that into account. And each and every state, by the way, the governor is welcome to reach out to us. We're constantly communicating with the governors. And when I say we, the administration, meaning Dr. Birx and others. So we are happy to consult with regard to specifics.
Detailed, some other outside organizations have put.
Can you imagine being a governor and being like, hey, I'm not sure what I should do. I'm going to call Trump and get his advice. Like, imagine being that clueless that you think Trump's the person who needs to help you figure out what to do.
Many of those guidelines are within. We've consulted individually with states, but as I said, it's a governor-led effort. It's a state-led effort in which the federal government will consult, and we do so each and every day.
So
Yes?
you've used the phrase warriors to describe everyday Americans. The president's using that phrase as well. What's the thinking behind using that description? And is that basically asking Americans to put themselves in harm's way?
Does she have a
harm's way like
warriors
warriors do?
Not in the slightest. It's actually the opposite. You know, the president's been clear that at this moment, you know, we're at a wartime moment where we're fighting the invisible enemy, and by that I mean COVID-19. And on the contrary, the notion that the American people are warriors, they're warriors because they've stayed home. They're warriors because they've social distanced. They're warriors because this mitigation effort is something that could only be done by the American people coming together.
I can see the commercials now. I am fighting a battle against a freezer full of mochi and trying to resist going and eating the entire thing.
Guidelines. I know it's been difficult. I know it's been hard, but it's because of you that we're at this place where we can reopen the country.
To be clear, that's the opposite of what the president says, specifically because he says Americans must be warriors to reopen the economy. You're saying they've already been warriors by staying home.
We're saying
they're all warriors.
We're saying the exact same thing. The
We're saying
president
they're
says
warriors
they're
either way.
warriors to reopen because guess what? In order to get to reopening, you have to social distance.
Right.
You had to put it together. Those
The war was staying home first. Now the war is going out and getting the virus.
One of the lowest mortality rates in the world, and that's because of the American.
We have the 14th highest mortality rate in the world. 14th highest mortality rate in the world.
I want to ask you about best practices, but first on China and some of the comments that the president made in the Oval Office. He said that there will be a report coming out next week, 10 days or so, as to whether or not they're living up to the deal China is. As it stands, though, right now, at this moment, how does the White House view the U.S. relationship with China right now?
Right now, it's a relationship of disappointment and frustration because the president has said how frustrated he is that some of the decisions of China put American lives at risk. I'll share just a few that China, for instance, did not share the genetic sequence until after a professor in Shanghai did so on his own. And after that genetic sequence was shared, the next day, the lab was shut down for, quote, rectification. The World Health Organization slow-walked information on human-to-human transmission that was not adequately provided by China. China didn't let U.S. investigators in. And look, those decisions put American lives at risk. And the president is certainly not happy about that. And as the president said, you'll be hearing more about that next week.
Business partners?
Sorry?
Maybe trusted business partners?
Look, the president has worked with China and stood up to China and got the Phase 1 China deal, a huge win, $250 billion. The president managed to get that done. And the president appreciates that China got us to that point of the Phase 1 China deal. So, I'll leave it to the president as to how we move forward, and I certainly won't get ahead of him on that.
On best practices, we heard the president say, as it relates to schools, that he wants to see schools open, but maybe teachers who are older than 60 not necessarily come back into the classroom. When you talk about reopening the economy, reopening the country again, there's a lot of people out there wondering, well, my school-aged child, should they come back into contact with a family member who might be older than 60 per se? What is the White House advice on that and families who are all over the country saying, is it time to meet up again?
Well, the president and the task force have been clear that vulnerable Americans, our senior citizens, need to shelter in place, and they need to take extra measures of precaution because, as we know, they've been disproportionately affected by the coronavirus. So I certainly would include the senior community to continue to follow the guidelines we've put forward. Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Birx has mentioned an influx of asymptomatic coronavirus cases. Without more widespread testing, how do you get a handle on something like that, and how do you keep people without
We have the
symptoms
most
spreading
testing. We have the
disease
best
around the country?
Yeah, so it's an important question. We get information on asymptomatic spread when we test in the meat processing facilities and other facilities. Again, you know, we can just test strategically, and it's important that once we test and we find an example of someone who has coronavirus, that we can contact trace and ensure that it's not spread to other members of the community. So contact tracing is an important measure, and we're testing strategically and in line with governors. John.
What's the process, Kayleigh, for the distribution and access to remdesivir?
Yeah, remdesivir is a great example of innovation in this country.
Which
I would
has
note
nothing
that
to do with Trump,
remdesivir
remember.
is a drug that the president mentioned
There you
quite
go.
often.
So, and right on cue. So listen, I told you guys about this drug as well as 7 or 8 others months ago. Trump has nothing to do with remdesivir at all. And in fact, he pushed hydroxychloroquine as if it were a miracle cure. They now are going to talk about remdesivir, if it's good, as if it has anything to do with Trump, even though it has nothing to do with Trump.
For giving these 1.5 million vials, which will help a lot of Americans around the country.
But what's the process for distributing it and giving access to patients?
I don't have any information on that
Right.
As of now. But
That's the
once I
answer.
get
Everything she said before that was not an answer.
Thanks, Kayleigh. The president said yesterday he does not want Dr. Fauci testifying before the House.
Oh, she's got a page
because
on
it's
that.
filled with Trump haters. How is that consistent with oversight and transparency?
Well, first of all, what the president noted was specific to the House. It's important to note that Dr. Fauci will be testifying before the Senate.
Right. The Republican Senate's a fine place for him to go, yeah.
Both Democrats and Republicans. The House, however, and specifically Chairwoman Nita Lowey's committee did not act in good faith. Mark Meadows had 3 calls with Chairwoman Nita Lowey 3 nights ago when she called to ask if Dr. Fauci could testify before a subcommittee hearing. And Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has made clear he wants to make the best use he can of the task force members' time. Of course, they're working hard to save American lives, so that's very important. So to that end, he said in the 3 phone calls, you know, what is the purpose of this hearing? Can you give me the subject matter? And Lowey was unable to tell the chief of staff what the subject matter was. The last phone call they had was at 10:46 p.m. on that evening, and Lowey agreed to follow up in the morning with details.
Right.
Those details were never received. Instead, we got a press release. So that's what we call a publicity stunt. We encourage the House to act in good faith, much like the Senate did. And as I noted, Dr. Fauci will be speaking in a week and a half before the Senate, so the notion that he's being blocked is just farcical.
Let me ask you just one other. Can I ask you one other topic?
Someone has
Does the president have doubts about the way the death toll is being calculated? Does he think perhaps the true toll is lower?
So the president answered this, and he said no, just a few moments ago in the Oval Office. On the mortality rate, I would note, as I noted just a few moments ago, we have one of the lowest in the world.
We have the 14th highest mortality rate per capita in the world, folks, okay? I need all the, 6,000 people that are watching across all of our platforms right now. Anytime they say that, we have the 14th highest mortality rate in the world from coronavirus.
Because of the work of the American people, we have escaped that 2.2 million number because of the extraordinary social distancing effort put in place by the
Hard to
American
keep up with
people.
all the lies.
Yeah, but way in the back.
Thank you. The president has said many times that he's received praise in phone calls with foreign leaders because of this administration's response to the coronavirus outbreak. Who exactly are those heads of state and heads of government who are praising this administration for its response?
Well, I won't reveal any contents of his private conversations with world leaders, but I will certainly share some of the very public comments from Democrat governors like Gavin Newsom.
That
who
wasn't
said
the question.
Every
Wasn't the
single
question.
direct
Wasn't the question.
request that President Trump that he was
Wasn't the
given,
question.
President Trump was capable.
Question was foreign leaders Trump claims are calling him and congratulating him and asking him for how he did such great things, not Gavin Newsom.
Extremely responsive in our hour of need, whether it was ventilators. We got a huge amount of supplies to test. And of course, I love the ones from Governor Andrew Cuomo, who praised this administration's response as phenomenal, saying he's delivered for New York. The Army Corps of Engineers, we built thousands of beds. He sent the Navy ship Comfort to New York. He has delivered for New York. President Trump has delivered for this nation.
Thanks, Kayleigh. The president was talking earlier about Dr. Bright being a disgruntled employee. One of the allegations in that whistleblower complaint is that in January, when there was still a huge shortage of N95 masks, that he had been in contact with a company that was offering up to 1 million of those masks, and he couldn't get anybody at HHS willing to engage with that company, which then subsequently exported 1 million N95s to China.
Right.
Is that something that you're looking into or concerned about?
Look, on issues of Dr. Bright, I'd refer you to HHS. I'm not going to get involved with the personnel issues or the substance of that complaint, but I will once again note, you mentioned masks, 70 million plus delivered. And again, that's 3 times the amount used by healthcare providers in any given year. So
yes, most of them in April when we had an opportunity in January to get ahead of this.
The question about teachers and what the president said earlier about keeping those who are 60 or older out of the classroom. What is the message to older Americans? Should they not do anything, not leave their homes until there is a vaccine? Or what would the president have them do if they're not allowed to teach because of their age?
Well, our task force has said that vulnerable communities like our seniors should shelter in place. That being said, we encourage every American, if you have a symptom that is pressing, that you need to go to your doctor. I've been disturbed to read many quotes from doctors, stories of people who are staying home with chest pain and don't go to the hospital when they could be on the verge of having a heart attack, who are missing important appointments like mammograms, screenings like colonoscopies. It's important that we as Americans continue to go to our doctors to get medically necessary procedures, and when we have symptoms that need to be addressing, like chest pain, that you do go to your doctor.
Should seniors stay home until there's a vaccine? If you have chest pain, you should go to the hospital. That's the question and answer.
Have a symptom like that. Chanel?
Thank you, Secretary McEnany. Going back to a topic about the House, in a separate chamber, Acting DNI Rick Grinnell has stated this week that he is prepared to release about 6,000 pages worth of transcripts relating to Adam Schiff's probe. Can you confirm whether or not the executive branch is conducting any kind of investigation into House members for potentials of wrongdoing, or is that something you can comment on yet?
The
I don't have
OAN
any
lady never
information
even
on that
understands
subject
her
matter.
question.
That's the first time hearing of that.
She has no idea.
Go back to Jeff's question about Dr. Fauci and then the president's statement that there are too many Trump haters in the House. I mean, does the White House really believe that you can decide to have officials testify in the Republican-controlled Senate but not testify in the Democratic-controlled House? Doesn't the House have legitimate oversight and a legitimate really responsibility, not just authority, but authority to have somebody like Anthony Fauci testify?
Will Dr. Fauci be questioned by Democrats in that Senate hearing?
Yes, he will be. So why? But are you saying that so the Senate's fine, the House has no role in oversight?
The House needs to act in good faith. We don't have time in the middle of a pandemic for publicity stunts. It's not the time for that.
What do you call
it's not the place
yesterday
for
in
that.
Arizona?
In the course of 3 phone calls, you should be able to give the subject matter to ensure it's the best use of Dr. Fauci's time, as you yourself noted, in the Republican-controlled Senate.
Maybe South Korea can help us somehow. They seem to know what's going on. We're screwed.
Yeah.
Kayleigh, in a previous life, before you were press secretary, you worked for the campaign. And you made a comment, I believe, on Fox.
Here we go.
You said President Trump will not allow the coronavirus to come to this country.
Love it.
Given what has happened since then, obviously, would you like to take that back?
Well, first, let me note, I was asked a question on Fox Business about the president's travel restrictions. I noted what was the intent behind those travel restrictions, which is we will not see the coronavirus come here.
Okay.
We will not see terrorism come here, referring to an earlier set of travel restrictions. I guess I would turn the question back on the media and ask similar questions. Does Vox want to take back that they proclaim that the coronavirus would not be a deadly pandemic? Does the Washington Post want to take back that they
None
told
of those people have been hired to be the press secretary.
the virus. Does the Washington Post likewise want to take back that our brains are causing us to exaggerate the threat of the coronavirus? Does the New York Times want to take back that fear of the virus may be spreading faster than the virus itself? Does NPR want to take back that the flu was a much bigger threat than the coronavirus? And finally, once again, the Washington Post, would they like to take back that the government should not respond aggressively to the coronavirus? I'll leave you with those questions, and maybe you'll have some answers in a few days.
Kayleigh,
Thank you very much.
Oh my God, that's it. 35 minutes late for a 25-minute press briefing where the only questions actually answered were, I haven't heard of that, or I can't speak to that. Every other answer was not an answer, right? Should seniors stay home until there's a vaccine? If you have chest pain, you should go to the hospital. That's not an answer. The only actual answers were, I've not heard of that. I can't comment on that. I can't speak to that. I can't disclose that. And as soon as she was asked about this embarrassing event on Fox, which I'll play for you, she doesn't actually answer and ends the press briefing. Remember this, guys?
Just a matter of protecting us, our national security really being at stake. And he's sort of the last line of defense there. Or first
That's
line,
right.
I should say.
Absolutely. This president will always put America first. He will always protect American citizens. We will not see diseases like the coronavirus come here. We will not see terrorism come here. And isn't that refreshing when contrasting it with the awful presidency of President
As soon as that was brought up, she just leaves and bails. Wow. Wow. The degree to which we are screwed because these people are in charge is difficult to even encompass with language. Thanks for joining me today. We will be back with new clips the rest of today and tomorrow, and we'll see what live events there are tomorrow. I will see you then if there are any.